live from the We Don't Know. This is a special episode studio. This is the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. Like I said, this is a special episode. We're kind of doing this on the fly. This is some news that broke over the last 2 days, and we decided that we needed to do a special episode. My name is Josh. I'm a K-12 tech director in Missouri. Chris is with me. Hello, Chris.
Hey, what's up?
He is a K-12 tech director from a school district in Missouri. And then the oddball, the guy who's out of place here, the one who doesn't, one of these things isn't like the other. Mark, he was a CIO. And he's apparently really cold tonight because he is bundled up. He is a consultant in the K-12 realm, helping school districts manage IT. We won't get into that, but yeah. So, PowerSchool, gentlemen, what's this, something, I felt a disturbance in the force. Something happened with, PowerSchool over the last 2 days.
Something happened. So should we just jump right into the meat of the,
I think we have to. Yeah.
We're recording this on January 8th. Yesterday, about 24 hours ago, PowerSchool sent a letter out to all of their customers, and their customers got one of two letters. They both said there has been a cybersecurity incident. One of the letters said you are not impacted, and the other one said you are impacted. And as you can imagine, the internet just imploded at that point with everybody standing up and saying, I got the letter. What does this mean? What the heck is going on?
Yeah, it's not like a Willy Wonka letter where, you want the golden ticket. You don't want the
Nobody wants the ticket.
Nobody wants the golden ticket from PowerSchool.
No. So PowerSchool announced that. They released an FAQ with some details yesterday along with that letter. And then today and tomorrow, January 8th and January 9th, they held or are holding webinars to give more details into it. So one of my clients is a school district that uses PowerSchool and got the bad email. So I was able to attend the webinar. We talked about this ahead of the show. We're going to be really careful with what we talk about here. We're only going to be talking about on the podcast information that is publicly available. So information that you can find in news articles, public forums, those kinds of things. And so some of the information that PowerSchool did give on the webinar has also been reported publicly, but we're going to be very careful not to give information in a way that could harm PowerSchool and or their customers, our school district colleagues. So
and the investigation, because they said multiple times this is still an ongoing investigation with authorities.
Yep. So we're going to be reporting on what has been publicly reported as of this moment, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this one for weeks to come. But yes, PowerSchool was the recipient of a cyber attack. Let's call it what it is. And they did use the phrase today on the webinar that this was a cyber attack. And a number of school districts were impacted. That number, as of right now, we don't know what that number is.
So I saw a post that estimating that a third of the public school district, or a third of the districts in the country use PowerSchool. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I thought it was more, so I'll go for a third.
Yeah, it's about actually, I have the data. It's about a third of the school districts use PowerSchool. They are the most popular SIS in the country. And it looks like this attack was only on PowerSchool's SIS. So even though PowerSchool has a host of other products, it was only the SIS that was impacted by this attack.
Something else, Mark, we're going to step through. You wrote I jokingly called it a manifesto, but seems to be a rather popular LinkedIn article about this. You've got some main talking points, and we're going to kind of step through those talking points. You want to do that now?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah.
So the first one, PowerSchool isn't just an ed tech company. They've got multiple products. But like you just said, their flagship product is one of the most popular student information system in the country, affecting rough thumb estimate millions of students at this point, right?
Yeah, on their website they do say that they serve about 60 million students. Unsure if that's 60 million students with their SIS, and also unsure if that's 60 million students impacted by this incident. I would assume that it's a whole lot less, but I think from what we're seeing on forums and both Reddit, the K-12 sysadmin forum has been very active, and then K-12 Tech Pro has been extremely active as well. I'd say we're definitely talking about this. This incident is in the millions of students impacted by this.
And quick plug for both the subreddit K-12 sysadmin and K-12 Tech Pro. It wasn't real long yesterday afternoon. Shortly after that email was sent out, you started seeing IOCs being published over on K-12 Tech Pro from very, like, these folks that are running PowerSchool that were able to look through their logs and pick out these IOCs, like a needle in a haystack, brilliant kind of actions, and sharing that information on K-12 Tech Pro so other PowerSchool users could see that and see if they were indeed affected and their data was taken as well. Just fascinating and wonderful collaboration taking place.
Do you know it's a big deal? Because the posts on K-12 sysadmin and on K-12 Tech Pro are they're massive.
Yeah.
And just constant comments going on. And if you can use comments as a measuring tool to the impact, it's a really big deal what's going on right now.
So I live in Boston, and the Boston Marathon bombing was a big deal. And at that time, Reddit became this massive, like, underground detective agency of trying to figure out who the bombers were. For good and bad. They're mostly bad. There was a few people innocently charged, but that was exactly what happened in the last 24 hours. Is somebody had posted on Reddit, and kudos to this person, like a huge Google Doc of how to find the logs within your PowerSchool instance. I used that to help the school district find exactly, what was going on. And very, very quickly, people had figured out before PowerSchool had said anything that there were logs within PowerSchool, within the SIS, to be very specific on this one, that indicated that an IP address coming from Ukraine, let's be clear, it's probably not in Ukraine. This IP, this account was downloading the student and the teacher table, which are probably two of the most dangerous tables, at least the student table for sure, to download. And so a flurry of districts were starting to post online in the last 24 hours that, hey, what is this account and why did the student table just get downloaded during the Christmas holiday break?
So that was point number 2 in your manifesto. This was a data exfiltration attack of epic proportions. So if you couple that with the user base that we're assuming the most popular SIS in the country, and then data exfiltration probably scripted to hit just knowing the number of schools over on Pro and the number of schools on K-12 sysadmin that said their data was taken. Like, that's not a single person doing this click, click, click. That had to be a script. Just the sheer number of schools that have admitted we saw this in our logs.
It was very mechanical. And so either you have a group of people going from customer to customer within PowerSchool downloading it, or you have a script that's downloading these two tables over and over again and over again. It was also done during the holiday break. I'm pretty sure that's going to be intentional as well.
Yeah. I was talking with somebody in my office today, just kind of walking through this timeline and this story, and it's like every damn holiday, I leave the office and think, is this the holiday it happens? Is this we're going on an extended break? Is this when it's going to happen? And of course, I walk in over Christmas break and I have a UPS filling in my data center. I thought that was going to be the big story of the Christmas break. Little did I know.
Yeah. So it does, the more of the timeline has come out, it does look like the first instance of this compromised account. And by the way, this was a compromised account that's been confirmed by PowerSchool in their letters. That the first instance of it being used was December 19th. So that's pretty much when school districts are starting to close for the holiday break.
Yep.
It was used subsequently over the next few days while everybody was out. And that's when we have massive data exfiltration occurring. A big question that I've seen asked quite a lot, online and even the webinars, well, what's on the student table? And unfortunately that's different depending on what the school district is, because districts can customize their SIS and you can have some fields and on the student table and other fields not. I still scratch my head at this one, but there are some districts that did have student social security numbers on the student table. I would like to think that number is relatively small.
Yeah, I know in Missouri, Desi told us to stop collecting them. Shoot, that had to be 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
Okay.
But I will say teacher social security numbers are part of state reporting. So we have to collect those on the student information system. So it would be interesting. I think the teacher social security number out of the teacher table would be a higher incident rate than the student social security number being with that data being exfiltrated.
Okay.
And in Missouri, with like we have like Medicaid, like student health stuff, whatever, you still have to pull those numbers. So again, I guess you would hope that if it wasn't tracked in PowerSchool, but there still are cases that I'm sure many states have where you still in smaller ranges, but have to pull those socials in.
Yeah. I think overall, this was limited to two tables. Likely two tables, the student and the staff teacher account or teacher tables. So it's a smaller subset of data than we've seen in other attacks, but the breadth of this was much, much larger than we have ever seen.
And still very valuable data.
Correct. Yeah. But we're not seeing, I mean, in some of the, targeted school district accounts or attacks, you've seen reports and psychology and behavior type stuff. That's not likely going to be a part of this breach, but the number of school districts is exponentially larger than any attack we've seen in a long time.
This probably would be the largest besides the Pearson. I don't remember how large the Pearson one was years ago.
Yeah.
But this is going to be massive comparative.
Yeah. The third thing is how they got in. And this was a hard one. I think this is where I'm going to be very careful with my words because we've had some people talking about this information publicly online. PowerSchool was, and to their credit, this is where I'll give massive kudos to PowerSchool for their webinar. They were extremely transparent with what happened and how it happened to the best of their ability. I'm sure you had a bunch of lawyers saying, don't say this or say this, all that kind of stuff. But the CEO of PowerSchool opened the call, and he closed the call. The CISO did a majority of the talking as well. And the CISO talked for probably 20 minutes of exactly what had happened, when this happened, what they found out. And I have yet to see that level of transparency in any breach of this magnitude. So I know that there's a lot of frustration and emotions right now online. I've seen quite a lot of anger on some of the public forums, but I give a huge credit to where credit is due, and that's the transparency from PowerSchool on their calls and their writing and their calls today. So yes, this was a compromised account. It was a member of or an account from their support team. So that person of the account had the ability to access different people's or different districts' SIS instances, whether or not that instance was in PowerSchool's data center or self-hosted, which is a point of contention for some people.
Yeah.
That account remotely accessed all the district's accounts and then downloaded the data and ran these exports. And so that backdoor account is going to be a big discussion point for a lot of people. I think the information that PowerSchool gave today was pretty detailed, but there's still a lot of questions out there around, was this an active or a former employee? Was this a contractor? Right. It sounds like there was MFA. We're not quite sure if that MFA was enforced or if this was a less secure version of MFA.
See, I didn't get that vibe.
Yeah, I think that's undetermined right now, and that's it could be very part of the investigation. It's why we don't know the details of that one. But I know I kind of left with a few questions around how did this account get compromised and what security options were in place. And PowerSchool did reference some of the changes that they're making to lock that down in the future.
That's one thing, when you were saying the good things, that giving PowerSchool kudos during the webinar, I don't think they answered. I dropped, but I don't think they answered a single question with "we can't talk about that." Did they?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. No.
I mean, in a webinar covering this type of content and this type of event for a vendor, the vendor that was breached, not to more or less roll over and answer every question with we can't talk about that. It's an ongoing investigation.
Yeah.
Like that alone is a major kudos.
Yeah.
Like they actually answered questions with pretty damn good detail.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that takes leadership. The CEO started that call. You could tell that, he's the one saying we're going to be very open and transparent and honest with our customers about this one. And that came down through the CISO and the other folks that talked on the call. So kudos to that one. I have seen some frustration online about the timing. People saying, well, you've learned about this one on December 28th. The records show that this happened on December 19th. Why are we finding out about this on January 7th, January 8th?
Mm-hmm.
I know.
So if you operate from the timeline of they didn't find out until the 28th.
Yeah.
And then they sent an email out notifying all their customers with accurate information as to whether or not they were affected on the 7th. You're talking less than 10 days for them to operate a response, contract out CrowdStrike to a response to figure out, do some data forensics, and then correlate that data out and contact. 10 days? Really? You're upset about 10 days? Yes, I agree. It's a bad situation, but I think that turnaround of 10 days is pretty damn good.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, the scope and scale of this incident and the information that we have received in that amount of time, it is commendable to see. We would always love to hear more about when you find out, but I think the other frustrating part is if you were to tell us on December 28th, you're in the middle of the investigation, and it sounds like we're going to get to this in a second. They're also in the middle of discussing this with the attackers. So that has to play out. And that played out in a very, very quick amount of time. So kudos to them for that. But also, I would be even more frustrated if you said, hey, we've been attacked, but I have no information to share with you.
Yeah.
If that was that first email you got, the golden ticket one.
Yeah.
Your stuff's hacked. We don't know yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't ask. We don't know. The answer is going to be, we don't know. Just don't ask. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, there was a unauthorized party that had accessed their systems. They were aware of this on December 28th, and they notified people about it.
Was that like an unauthorized Christmas office party?
Yeah. Yeah.
God, those are the best, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think timelines are really, really hard, especially when you're in it. And at first, I had that first reaction of like, well, wait a minute, why are you just telling us about this a week later? But in hindsight, when you really start to look at the details of it, that's a very quick timeline and turnaround for them.
Well, and comparatively, other breaches in recent history, we're talking 90 days later and getting a notification of a breach.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
And let's factor in that it was on holiday.
Right.
Yeah.
You sound European, on holiday.
Well,
by the way,
I think some people came into work for this.
Probably got paid overtime.
There are some people that were off that were called in.
I'm still waiting to find out what the heck happened with CrowdStrike. So, here we are 7 months later.
Oh,
yeah. No, that's real.
There goes that CrowdStrike sponsorship.
So, yeah. And then the last one, and this is, I think this is the one that hurts the most. PowerSchool did pay the attackers. They did say that this was not a ransomware incident. This is where I was a little confused. They did say that this was not a ransomware incident, but they did pay. I think what they mean by that is the attackers did not hold systems hostage, but there was discussion of the data being posted or released publicly, and PowerSchool or their representatives. There was a transfer of money. I think they've been open about that, in order to stop the release of information and to securely delete the data.
Yeah, and I was going to say they did get something in return. They got a video of the shred command being used on the data. Now,
I know
logic would say What is there to prove that they didn't make a copy of that data already? And honor among thieves. And I know there's this kind of undertone trend of, well, these guys are in a business and they don't want a bad reputation in the business world of doing the things they say they're not going to do if they get paid.
Yeah.
I get that sentiment, but I have trust issues. Like that
1,000%.
You're relying on a bad guy to not lie to you, who's already done bad things to you. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Because I think the quote was received reasonable assurances, but like, what is that?
Right.
And like, that's a relative thing to me. Like, what's reasonable for you might not be reasonable for me. I still think you get a jump drive in your pocket.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That's a hard one. And I'm going to withhold any sort of comment on that one just because I don't know enough.
On. Slam your beverage and tell us what you really feel, Mark. Come on.
No, I don't know. I mean, I think
I hope it plays out the way they expect it to play out. That every intention of this conversation is, I hope PowerSchool is correct and it is not leaked. But man, that takes a whole lot of trust.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Or a whole lot of money.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I would, and maybe we won't ever really find this out. I would like to know the number of districts affected and what that student count is.
Yeah.
Compared to like other ransom. Shoot, there was another article last week. A district confirmed to pay $1.5 million to get their data, to not release their data. So $1.5 million for a single district, and we're talking the largest SIS in the country, potentially millions of students. What is that number?
Yeah, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know the answer.
So they did, Mark. They did confirm that they paid.
Yes. Yeah, that was confirmed. That was, in fact, I believe that was confirmed in an article on TechCrunch. They had confirmed that one. So yeah. So those are kind of the main learnings of the PowerSchool incident so far. Just kind of a quick pivot. What if you are an impacted school district? What should you be doing right now?
So yeah, great question. I'm sure each of us, the three of us, have had conversations over the last 24 hours with districts.
Yeah.
Hey, we got notification we were affected. I talked to a friend last evening and this afternoon, that it was just time for him to give a board report, and he was going to inform the board of that, of this incident. Okay, Mark, you likely have had to deal with something similar to this before. Chris and I haven't. Do you, when you're getting ready to inform your parents of something like this, like you need to communicate this information to your parents, if you're going to tell your board in a board meeting, do you do that in closed session or do you do that in open session?
Well, at this point, everything is public. And so, I'm working with a school district that is impacted this one. So, my advice is to start communicating to families and to your board as soon as possible. And this is where I think as a school district, your parents are going to want to hear from you, the school district, before they hear about this in the news. And so this is hit, at least at the time of this recording, this has hit enough major news sources that school districts, by Thursday or Friday of this week, should be sending something home to their families to let them know about this and let them know that they're monitoring and the situation and things like that.
PowerSchool was going to offer some of that, some templates, right? Weren't they?
Yeah. I think they did say to their school districts on the call that they're going to be helping a little bit with that one. But I will.
The least they can do is offer an email template.
It is your, as a school district, it's your responsibility to notify your district, your parents. And state Department of Education's like, this is a breach, dust off that breach notification process protocol.
Local laws. Like your time, your clock is now ticking for breach notifications to the state as well. If that's to DESI or if that's to some other office at the state level, your state CISO or somebody like that.
Yeah. So that's the first thing I would be doing right now is communicating to your families. As tech directors, we should be aware of what data was likely contained in the student and the teacher table, and communicating that to your leadership as well. I don't think
that question we quick had about the social security numbers thing, like, hey, did we have that or not? We don't think we did.
Yes.
Like, figure that out. Like, go figure that part out.
Well, and that's a conversation that should not be happening during an incident either. Like you should have an idea or a data dictionary somewhere of what data like that is kept where.
Yep.
That's the TechCrunch article cites the bleeping computer article, but it says PowerSchool said could have social, could have medical, could have grades, could have pie. That same paragraph says PowerSchool did not say how much the company paid. But anyways, could have. So figure out if your system does or doesn't.
Yeah. Yep. And that's the nature of an SIS.
So Mark,
each district can customize it. So
in that communication to parents, are you leaning on the fact that you have a data privacy agreement with PowerSchool and that, you as a district and as the IT leader did your due diligence of making PowerSchool prove that they adhered to a standard, NIST, CIS, something along those lines, were protecting the data? Do you communicate that fact to your parents? Does it hold water with parents? Are parents going to care that you had a DPA? Does that mean anything to a parent, to the average parent?
I think that's a great question. I think it all depends on your community and what you know is important to your community. I when I was in the Boston Public Schools, that was less important than the community next door to us, who felt that data privacy and data privacy agreements were extremely important. So I think it all depends on the community that you're in. You write the letter that meets the needs of your community and you say what needs to be said. I think being very transparent about we're taking this very seriously, we're working with a company who is also taking this very seriously is important. I was thinking about this one. And this may be controversial, but I think now
I like it. Spicy, Mark. Come on.
No. I mean, not in that way, but this is the time for you to build trust back in your vendors in your school district. And I don't think throwing PowerSchool under the bus to your family, to your community is the right move, because let's be clear, we're not all going to just abandon PowerSchool and move to another SIS. You're going to be using this system tomorrow. And the last thing that you need is families not trusting the system and not trusting you for using that system. So I wouldn't throw anybody on the bus at this point. I would just say, and like I said before, I'm commending PowerSchool for their commitment to this issue and their transparency. And I would echo that to families in your communication. But we're all tech people. This is where communication experts and consultants come into play. And hopefully your district is already working on that.
But devil's advocate here, just to press that point of not throwing anyone under the bus.
Yeah.
Because you do have to maintain that relationship with PowerSchool going forward, but the likelihood of them seeing your letter to parents is probably pretty small.
You can move to campus.
Yeah, don't. Yeah. Do you sort of take the defensive in your letter to parents saying, look, we selected PowerSchool as a vendor because they are top tier. They are the most popular in the country. They've got their poop together. They were willing to sign a DPA, a privacy agreement that adheres to these things. We thought we were doing everything we needed to do, and this just shows that it can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
I think you have to show that the district went through their due diligence in vetting PowerSchool as a vendor at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's something that you can do. I think more important to that one is to underscore the fact that this was an attack, that this was not the district acting, maliciously or incompetently. This
cavalier.
This was, at this point, we don't think that the vendor was necessarily being cavalier. There's still a lot to be determined, but this was an attack. This was not somebody that just left a thing open for somebody to get this. There was a bad guy who deliberately came and did this one. I think that's a really, really important thing to say to parents, that we're all victims in this. PowerSchool, this school district, and you as families are victims.
I think, listening back to our ransomware interviews, that's one of the comments. I think it was the LAUSD interview that we did. During their communication process with their constituents and their parents, they were very clear and beat that drum of, we were attacked. This was a deliberate attack.
Yeah.
I think that phrasing carries an amazing amount of weight and meaning when people read that and really take a second to understand what that means. But I completely agree. You're right. Using that phrasing will go miles in that communication.
And PowerSchool can say that same phrasing, and it kind of hits you a little bit different for sure.
Yeah.
I was just pulling up, reminding myself, PowerSchool did sign the White House Secure by Design pledge. I guess
they did.
The pledge didn't quite make it all the way, but you still pledge. You just
they were at the White House, and we weren't.
Yeah. Anyway.
Listen, I also pledge to go to the gym every day this new year, and
I pledged to do dry January, and I didn't make it 2 days.
Yeah. No, the other thing I was thinking through, I mean, for us in the tech role, what else can we be doing at this point? I think right now it is about communication, both to and from PowerSchool, and then to and from your families. From what I learned on the webinar, from what I read online, I don't think there's much technically that we could be doing right now to close this up.
No.
There has been some very strong voices around, like, well, some districts were self-hosted. You mean they hosted PowerSchool within their own data center and they were still accessed?
Yeah.
Given how this came out, we won't go into the details of that one on the podcast, but given that's how this came out, I don't think there's anything that a school district can do to prevent that from happening. And there's really nothing that you can do outside of communication right now. But what I will say is I always never let a crisis go to waste.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have not rolled out two-step verification, this is your time. This is like, take full advantage of this one. If you've got some, less than secure password practices or any sort of other practice that you can take advantage of this incident and say, hey, this is why we've got to roll out MFA. This is why we've got to change your passwords. This is the time to do it. Don't ever let a crisis go to waste, and make the change that you need to do within your district. Because to be honest with you, if PowerSchool got hit like this, every single ed tech company in every single school district is just as vulnerable.
Well, I took this as an opportunity. I took the Bleeping Computer article and forwarded it to my superintendents this morning and said, hey, look, we're not a PowerSchool school. This doesn't affect us, but you need to know, like, this is the big dog. And it happened to them. We could easily be in this same boat due to any one of the other hundreds of third parties that we use for ed tech services in a very similar event. This is very, very real. And it was well received. It was very well received.
Yeah.
So if you're not a PowerSchool school, I would be at least informing your central office staff about forward them the Bleeping Computer article or the TechCrunch article, and kind of scare them.
What else is there to say right now
about this? I think this was a good special episode. If you want to know,
I don't feel good about it.
Well, if you want to know some of the things that are in between the lines that we're not talking about, go over, check out K12 Sysadmin over on Reddit. But there's some really meaty content over on K12 Tech Pro. You just hit community and click join, take a sponsored option. You don't have to pay to join. Take the sponsored option. Chris is going to shoot me dirty looks for saying this. Take the sponsored option. You can get in for free. I had one of my guys, I have a new guy started today. First thing I did, Chris, after I got him signed into the domain, what did I do? I texted you and said, hey, my guy's signing up for pro. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, and I posted this on, so we mod the K12 Sysadmin subreddit. It is great. But it is public, right? So as we're digging in, like this post, you're digging in the logs, you're kind of showing some cards publicly. Still a great resource, but the difference between that and K-12 Tech Pro, K-12 Tech Pro is it's private, it's vetted, it's only K-12 Techs on there. We don't even let vendors and sponsors on there. So that's the difference. So some of the talk on Pro, we got to dig a little bit deeper into logs and do a little bit more sharing. We're going to post. Yeah, go ahead.
There are some damn smart people
yes.
on there.
We're going to post Mark's article on Pro kind of as we do this episode out. And we're going to tag up these articles that we've talked about too. And like that log Google Doc is a great document if you haven't checked out your PowerSchool stuff yet.
Yeah, so, there's a user on Reddit who posted a Google Doc with instructions on exactly how to verify and look at your audit logs. It's really, really well done. And every time I've gone in there, there's at least 30, 40, 50 people in this document. So excellent job.
So if you are a PowerSchool school and you got any solace or any actionable content out of this episode, please share us with other PowerSchool schools or even schools that aren't PowerSchool. We hope you got some decent content out of this. You're not alone in this breach. You're with a number of districts, probably the majority of the districts in the country, it sounds like, working through this. There is support out there. There's, like I said, over on Reddit and K-12 Tech Pro, there are cohorts out there willing to support you and commiserate and help you figure out if you were part of the incident as well. Share us with your friends. Shoot us an email, k12techtalk@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts. If you have any strong feelings about this, any questions, we'll see what we can do. Any other closing thoughts, fellas? This is just a special episode, so we hopefully will have another regular episode, our first episode back after break, coming tomorrow. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for listening.